That's why very few people know the president of Finland. If the name of a country's leader is known, that country's mentality is backward. For thousands of years, public buildings have been constructed to meet society's needs and increase rulers' wealth. Sovereigns prove their superiority to subservient communities with great monuments. Although many are functional, the primary purpose is to separate the rulers from the masses, to symbolically assert class distinction and deify themselves like a pharaoh. In addition, public monuments were built that added functionality, monumental qualities and aesthetics, and were intended to demonstrate the political power of a region. Besides their function, Roman activities and monuments, such as the aqueduct and amphitheater, pumped the illusion of eternity to the masses. However, as the people's consciousness grew through working class struggles and revolts, the state, the apparatus of the rulers, developed social policies. The out-of-control tyrants, chieftains or pharaohs with delusions of grandeur of the past have changed their shape and behavior. Today, an out-of-control growth mentality is not achieved with gigantic monuments or palaces. In the Middle Ages, you could hide a country's poverty and exploitation of its masses with grand palaces and burnish its reputation with frauds. But in a world of the internet, a country's respect for human rights and the degree of its democracy are indicators of its actual reputation, and this cannot be hidden with palaces.
Türkiye'nin düze çıkmasını isteyenler yıllarca barış ve demokrasi talebini dile getirdi. Son haftalarda yaşananlar...
The situation can be obvious when you look at the number of journalists in jail or the success rate of a country's universities on your cell phone. The development of LGBTQ rights, democratic rights of minorities, and so on. These are accurate indicators of reputation. If you have 10 palaces built in the 2000s, it shows that you are an underdeveloped country. It's an indicator of wasteful policies that have no coherent justification. But the people, especially those who make up the backward peoples, may associate wealth and power with the force of arms, giant shopping malls, or the charisma of a leader. This proves that the people are not very philosophical and in fact still have a medieval mentality. If the name of a country's leader is known, that country's mentality is backward. It's a backward country even if it has all the riches, all the armies. That's why very few people know the president of Finland. But we know Trump. We also know Putin. Weak minds need charismatic leaders, and these leaders need weak minds. These minds can often be associated with eating too many hamburgers or too much pasta. Some people's size complex is described in the social sciences as gigantism. The concept comes from biology and medicine, but it also fits into the social sciences. The most primitive form of gigantism is building big palaces. A slightly more advanced form, though not by much, is characterized by the male behavior of the leader. The leader identifies an enemy and consolidates the mass by constantly attacking them. He develops male rhetoric with macho behavior and appeals to weak minds with his cold stance. The feeble mind often perceives power as physical strength and dominance. Since human is not yet evolved enough, they cannot realize that dominance and power are real diseases. Gigantism therefore affects undeveloped human minds, and politicians exploit it. Real power is about sharing, not being parasitic and not generating fear, just like prophets, saints, or dervishes. But the weak mind cannot understand and comprehend their power. On the contrary, they also magnifies prophets and makes them Superman. They will make them God. They admire the gigantic demeanor of the leader because they cannot control their self and lives. They want to prevent others' fears, and when they cannot do that, they want to be a follower of the powerful. This is the reason of admiring gigantic behavior. As they become weaker, they deify the leader they admire. Masses under the influence of gigantism have no chance of democratization. They are always waiting for a messiah. They always want a messiah to control them. They run away from freedom. The burden of the responsibility for freedom is too heavy for these people. They idealize the state, and the state, using their values as a screen, often ruthlessly perpetuates capitalist relations. This is what the state has been at almost every point throughout history. The masses caught up in gigantism resemble herds because they are powerless. However, true democracy, which emerged in 1968, doesn't need herds. It requires highly aware minds. Gigantism is engraved in the consciousness through the national education system and primarily through history lessons. Because the system that owns the school captures these minds when they are young. The history of heroes has been criticized by schools of analysis schools such as analysis school. However, despite this, education systems emphasize not the philosophy of history, but the history of powers. When the political history mentioned, the history of states is understood, not the history of people's revolts or not history of daily life of people. States are sanctified while the people's revolts are often described negatively. A popular uprising is only sanctified if the establishment of a state follows it. Otherwise, uprisings and revolts are considered